Hi, and welcome to the Modern Persian Food Podcast. We are food bloggers,
Bita Arabian,
and Bita Nazim Kelly, and we're here to share with you the rich flavors and fresh ingredients of Persian cooking and how to incorporate them into today's modern lifestyles.
We're excited to introduce you to the flavors, tastes, and techniques we use, and also our own cultural stories and perspectives growing up in the U.S. in a Persian family. Thank you for joining us.
Before we get started, we wanted to let you know we have a listener survey live on our homepage right now, modernpersianfood.com, and we'd love it if you just spend a few minutes just to give us your quick thoughts as we go into second year of broadcasting Modern Persian Food. We'd love to connect with you. Thanks so much.
Welcome to episode number 54. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Bita. Hi, Bita.
Hi there.
And we're going to be talking about Kadoo. Kadoo is Farsi for squash, and we hope to share some interesting ways of using squash in Persian food and beyond. We thought it would be fun to talk about squash and pumpkins this time of year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the prevalent squash in Persian cuisine is zucchini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Zucchini is a delicious ingredient that we use in Persian cooking. It can be used interchangeably with eggplant, like a traditional fesenjoon, an eggplant stew. You can actually substitute zucchini instead in it, kadu sabz. So you can make like a khoresh with the sauteing of the onions and having the zucchini simmer in a sauce of like tomatoes. And if you want to have meat of choice in there, you can do that and have it simmer and serve that with delicious rice. That's one way to do it. Yeah, but kadu can be used for a lot of different dishes. The borani, which is a lovely kind of like appetizer or side dish that traditionally you can make with different vegetables. You can make it with the kadu. You can grate the kadu, or what I've seen sometimes is just like thin sheets cutting into strips of the zucchini and saute that with some tomatoes and onions and put that with the yogurt. And that's a delicious little appetizer that you can have with bread as a dip, or you can have it as a side dish and have it with your rich stews or like a light lunch type of thing.
Yeah, I love squash, all kinds, yellow squash, zucchini, pumpkin. I feel like squash and zucchini is so delicious when it's cooked, and it just grabs onto the spices and the sauces. Mm-hmm. It's so delicious with some tomato sauce or robe or, tomato paste. And it has a lot of liquid in it. So when you're cooking zucchini or squash, mm-hmm. depending on what you're making, sometimes you have to drain the liquid out a little bit. But I think that that's part of maybe why it really grabs onto flavors and spices and tomato sauces. Have you ever actually cooked like a Persian stew with squash or zucchini or pumpkin?
Yeah, so like the fesenjoon, you can use zucchini instead of it. And then, or you can also have it like, two kinds of, you can have the eggplant and the zucchini in like, different sides of the platter if you wanted to. That's like a stew. One way that I like cooking kadu as well is to make a kookoo kadu. The kookoo is like a herb frittata. I've made it two different ways. I've done it so that I've actually sauteed the zucchini first, and then I mixed it with the eggs and a little bit of flour and fried that in a pan. Another way is I actually just chopped up the zucchini and the squash and then just use that as the base of the kookoo.
I love your unique kookoos. I love the original ways that you use different vegetables in kookoo, like when you brought the cauliflower kookoo over to my house. Oh.
Yeah, I think it's just a really easy food for me to eat. I'll have it for breakfast. I'll wrap it sometimes in like lavash or a tortilla and have it like as like a quick snack. So I really do enjoy having kookoo around. But that's one other way that you can use the zucchini and squash.
Yeah, to be honest, I think that I use squash kadu more in other type of regional recipes. Like I recently made a delicious ratatouille. I made like a sheet pan dinner with roasted vegetables, including eggplant and kadu and squash and zucchini. And it was really fast and easy. Sometimes I will throw it into a super stew. But yeah, to be completely honest, I don't think I've made an entirely Persian stew with squash. So this is inspiring me.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of things I do with pumpkins, just thinking like seasonally.
Yeah, let's talk about pumpkins.
Sure. Pumpkins are near and dear to my heart. I just have memories of pumpkin patches, of carving pumpkins, of roasting pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, we talked about that in the tokhme episode, one of the micro episodes over the summer. We talked about your pumpkin seeds. And doesn't your brother really love them?
He does. I always save some for him. Yes. I make a butternut squash soup. I'll make pumpkin bread here and there. I do like cooking with them and crafting with them and using them as decor. They're so cute. I have one already. And during quarantine and stuff, I was getting extra crafty. I made some really pretty succulent pumpkins. So I have a video on making beautiful table decor with princess pumpkins. Those are what I call the sort of flatter ones. Sometimes they're white. They come in so many different varieties and colors and shapes now. I just had so much fun. I shared one with my neighbor. I shared some with family, and they kept them for a really long time, because when you don't carve out the pumpkin and you're just gluing things on the top, like succulent pieces and so forth, they could actually last from Halloween all the way through Thanksgiving, and then you could even like spray paint it gold and put it into the winter holidays.
Oh, fun. Wow, that's creative.
The other thing I really love to do with pumpkins is to get the kind that you eat and cook them fresh and then use them into stews or soups. And also to hollow them out and to put stews inside is such a fun thing. It just makes the stew taste extra delicious. And you can actually put like Persian abgusht, like a meat stew or a vegetable stew in there, or any kind of hearty stew. And it's just so quaint and seasonal and fun.
Yeah, I think that has a really beautiful visual representation too of the pumpkin with like the soup in there. And I think that you could kind of do it two different ways. You could have a big one, like a big pumpkin, and have it family style. Or wouldn't it be so cute to have small individual sized pumpkins and everyone has their own portion of the stew or whatever it is that you're making? That sounds so delicious and pretty.
That's what we do, is individualized.
Oh, how fun. I know that a great way to add additional lusciousness to like a lentil soup is to actually cook the pumpkin and puree that in the soup, and it really adds like a silkiness to the soup. In the same vein as that, adding it to fesenjoon will also add a really luxurious silkiness to that dish of the pomegranate and the walnuts, that beautiful stew that we call fesenjoon. So adding pumpkin in those executions really adds a lot to the dishes. There's also khorish, the kadoo tambal, which I've also seen it as butternut squash, and basically a stew made with the pumpkin or the butternut squash with that ingredient. And that's like a beautiful stew that you can serve over rice as well.
How interesting. I have never had fesenjoon with pumpkin in it. That's really creative, and the stew sounds delicious. I do have a recipe for lentil soup with butternut squash.
Oh, okay.
I'm right on board with what you're saying about kind of thickening up the lentil soup. It's very warm and cozy.
Perfect as we're getting into fall with these great ingredients.
You can get squash that's already cut up, frozen.
Oh.
Yeah, I like to kind of keep a bag of some sort of squash or frozen butternut squash in the freezer. And then I personally like to have the other types of squash fresh. What type of form of squash do you keep in the house?
Yeah, so I mean, like the zucchinis and like the yellow squash, I have fresh ones of those. I just actually bought some from the market. I actually even love just sauteing them in a little bit of coconut oil as kind of like a vegetable for the table. I typically have those fresh. Honestly, if I'm going to add pumpkin to my soup, I will usually use a can of pureed pumpkin. I'm not going to cut down my own pumpkin and cook it, although you can definitely do that. So I would use the pureed can form. And butternut squash, I usually just get like a fresh one and then I chop it and then I peel it and cook it. My favorite way to cook that is actually roast it in the oven in the cubes, tossed with some olive oil and laid flat with a little bit of salt. But I actually haven't experimented with frozen butternut squash, but I will definitely try that because I do enjoy having some frozen veggies that I can kind of pop into different foods, add a little boost of nutrients too. So I'll definitely try that out.
Yeah, it's easy for soups. I love the taste of roasted butternut squash like you described, sliced and like almost smoky. That's really delicious.
Yeah. And then these days you can actually even buy it like prepped in the produce section. So if I'm running out of time, I will buy just kind of the already prepared, cut up, fresh butternut squash. And then just, if I want to make an easy side or easy something for dinner, I can just throw that in the oven pretty quickly.
Delicious. Well, a fun, easy snack that we made last year, we made some pumpkin energy bites or balls, and really simple. We just took oats, almond butter, pumpkin from the can, just a little. It doesn't even require any cooking, and some maple syrup, and you stir it all together. I made this with my girls. You stir it until it's all stuck together, and you can use your hands and shape the balls and put it in the fridge. And they're fun, pumpkin-y, seasonal, little protein-packed energy bites.
Oh, fun. And then you just keep them refrigerated?
You don't have to. It depends how fast you eat them, but yeah.
That sounds really great. That sounds like a fun little care package you can make maybe for your daughter who's away at college now.
Good idea.
Aww.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen fresh zucchini mixed with yogurt. So instead of like mast khiar, it's mast kadoo.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is the zucchini in the mast khiar, mast kadoo fresh zucchini?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Just as like a little bit of a different take on mast khiar, using what ingredients you have.
Yeah.
But, not only just for eating, you can use it for decorating and as a serving vessel as well. So thank you, Bita June. That was fun.
Thank you.
Do we have an Ask the Beats today?
We do. This week's Ask the Beats comes from Miriam in Sunnyvale. Miriam wants to know, is there an easy vegan Persian lunch idea? She's vegan and she wants to be able to put something yummy together that is vegan.
Great question. When I think about Persian vegan food, I think that is actually very common. The stews that we have don't need to have animal protein in them. So you can make like the khoresh badamjoon, the eggplant, or the khoresh karafs, or really most of the stews don't require meat. Yes, the classic recipe may have meat in it, but I mean, we make a lot of these recipes without any meat in them. And so I think that by nature, you don't have to have meat in your stews, and that would pretty much make them vegan, because aside from that, you don't have to add butter. You could obviously use olive oil. A lot of the stews don't include any dairy in them, so that makes it safe, and you don't have to put eggs in them. So I think there's a lot of options for Persian food that doesn't have any animal products in it. So I would say that my go-to vegan dish is adas polo, like a lentil rice. That's just super delicious and it's really fortifying. And I love garnishing that with like caramelized onions and dates and raisins. That's my go-to like kind of like vegan dish that if I'm, sharing that with friends. I think a more simpler version for a lunch would be just kind of mixing ready-made lentils with rice and kind of having like a light lunch that way. I think that would kind of be like my go-to idea for my vegan Persian recipe. What about you?
I love lentils. That's delicious and nutritious. I have a great idea for an easy vegan wrap. So what I would do is I would take some vegetables, take squash, a mix of squash, chop them up if they're not already chopped, marinate them in like a balsamic vinegar, braise them, cook them in the air fryer, cook them down, and then make a wrap with either lavash or tortilla or some sort of bread. And then make it a Mediterranean vegan wrap, some hummus, or I have a delicious butternut squash vegan dip recipe I'll include. It actually is inspired by a woman I met at a food truck who has vegan Persian food. And her name is Kimya, and
she's the one in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, Harmonious Roots. And this recipe is inspired by her delicious dip I was obsessed with. And it's basically butternut squash, some olive oil, a little bit of tahini, and turmeric, garlic, salt. And she actually put some chopped macadamia nuts on top. But you could put that delicious squash vegan dip inside your wrap. And yum, it's making me hungry for lunch. So hopefully, Miriam, that gives you some ideas.
And yeah, thanks for the idea. We'll definitely add that to our editorial calendar so we can have a full episode dedicated to vegan Persian food.
This has been really fun. I'm in the mood for squash and pumpkins. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Bita June.
Thanks, Bita June. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Bita and Beata. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.